Hello, welcome to Dirty Talk, a Dirty 20 Nerd Bar podcast. My name is Jason. As always, I am the owner of Dirty 20 Nerd Bar in Baldwin, Missouri. Behind the camera, we have Rich Brumpton, our producer, the one providing all the equipment for us to put on this podcast every week. Sorry, last week it was Mother's Day, and we just had a little too much going on and didn't get a chance to get the stream up. But thank you so much for joining us this week. As you can see, I'm by myself today. Today, I thought I would talk a little bit about the world of my D&D campaign that I built a long time ago, actually, and we're still continuing in our home game today. Love that y'all are here, and hopefully you get to hear a little bit of lore about the world that I have built. So the idea for this world started... oh, by the way, today I'm drinking the Mana Margarita. Made by our bartender Branchy today. It is a margarita with blue curacao, so it's got that nice, pretty blue color. So it kind of looks like a mana replenisher potion from video games. The concept for this world came about shortly after I started playing D&D back in 2019. One thing about Dungeons and Dragons that I absolutely love are one of my favorite monsters is just dragons in general. I actually love the lore of dragons and the war that the chromatic and the metallic dragons have. So I kind of built my world around that in some capacity. The history of the world started with some one-shots that I was putting on for my friends. I wanted to... you met some of them a couple weeks ago. They were all playing this campaign. I wanted to dip my toes into DMing, so I put together a one-shot, and for the one-shot even, I was building this lore that way too much for a one-shot, to be perfectly honest. As I said before, I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved world building, so that's where D&D really just hit all those niches for me. So even as I was putting together this one shot, I was building all this lore behind this one shot. And so basically the lore for the first one shot, the very first one shot I ever ran, I ran a level 21 shot, which in retrospect probably wasn't a great place to start, especially since I allowed our Unearthed Arcana, and at the time I can't remember the name of the class. The Psionic class was huge on Unearthed Arcana, super overpowered. Mystic, thank you, Rich. The Mystic class that they split up into 4 classes because that's how powerful the Mystic was. And my wife Ruth was playing that. So just a group of way overpowered adventurers for my first one shot ever as a DM. And the lore I built was that, so the gods hadn't really come into power yet. This was like really early on in the world of, I don't even know if I have a world name for this world, to be perfectly honest. But it's really early on in this world. And the gods hadn't been established yet. I called them the firsts. So they were the first beings to walk the material plane. They were super powerful beings, but some dangers kind of crept up on them, and they were responsible. Well, they weren't responsible, but they took on the responsibility of stopping those dangers because they were realizing that the material plane was becoming more populated. The humanoid races were beginning to flourish, and civilization was starting to be built, and they noticed that these dangers were starting to creep up, and they had to take care of them. So Bahamut, there was an ancient shadow dragon that Bahamut had to fight, and Pelor, there was a forest that's still present in the world today, but at the time it wasn't a name for it, but it was this ever expanding forest, where it started off as like a wooded area, but every day it grew and expanded, and it would take over overnight. It would take over entire cities, and it was destroying civilization. It was killing people. So Pelor had to put a stop to that. So he worked on that. There's several other things. So Bahamut locked himself in a dungeon to fight basically locked himself in eternal combat against this ancient shadow dragon. He hadn't achieved godhood yet, so he was fighting the ancient shadow dragon in this dungeon. Eventually became known as Bahamut's tomb. Then Pelor had locked himself. It basically used his body as a shield for the heart of the forest. There was a particular spot in the forest that he found was the source of all the power to create the forest, to cause the forest to continue to grow and expand. So he used his body as a shield for the magic and was locked in that. And then the other gods had all their own other issues that they were dealing with at the time. Ioun actually, there's a gate to the Nine Hells deep below the mountains that would eventually be known as Flivavec, that she was guarding. So she was eternally guarding, fighting devils as they would come through this portal. Devils or demons? I always get those two confused. Which ones are from hell? So devils are from hell. Yeah, so she was constantly fighting off the devils that were coming through this portal from hell. Asmodeus was had claimed hell at that time, so basically he was trying to send his armies into the material plane to gain power, and Ioun was tasked to stop them from continuing on. So that happened, and then 1,000 years passed, and it was the time known as the time before the gods, where these powerful entities didn't exist effectively for a time, until the forest began to expand more, and where Bahamut's tomb was, there was a war of the dragons. The metallic dragons had set up a arcane shield to protect Bahamut's tomb, but the metallic dragons were trying to fight to enter and finish the job that the shadow dragon hadn't quite completed at that time. So there was just a lot of turmoil going on in the material plane, and that's where the adventurers, our first adventurers, step in. Our level 20 adventurers step in. They went to Bahamut's tomb. One of them had Bahamut's greatsword. It was when they had it, it was just a platinum +3 greatsword. That's all they knew about it. But it was the key to unlock Bahamut's tomb. So they used the sword to unlock the tomb, and they were able to enter into the tomb. They fought a series of dangers. There were some giants that were tasked to guard the tomb. So there was a civilization of giants, and there were 3 giants that were they were guards to the tomb, but you weren't. Basically, they would test you, so you would fight them until they realized that they weren't going to win, and then they would give up. You move past them, and you get to some angelic beings. So you had planars and I can't remember, another lesser angel. What was it? Diva. Thank you. Rich is giving me all the answers off screen. There's divas and planars that were again tasked to test alignments. And actually, Sarah, who you met during our first stream, she was playing a lawful evil tiefling named Reverence, I believe was her name. And so the idea was that they were to defeat when they defeated the divas, and then the planar was going to just basically cast mass healing and bring them back before they actually died. But again, you put a bunch of level 20 adventurers, especially a mystic, into the mix, and one round and it's over. So they ended up killing the angels, and I did a bit of DM yada yada, and allowed the planar to basically revive the divas, but not before Reverence cut off the wings of the divas and kept all their feathers, eventually turning them into pillows, which is wild. More about her later. So they continue on in the dungeon, and they find a statue, and it's a man. There's a statue of a man, and he's got 7 canaries on his shoulders. And instantly, Sarah knew. Again, Sarah's big into lore of D&D. Instantly, she recognized this as Bahamut and was like, "I can't be here. Let me hide these diva wings that I just cut off a little bit earlier in the dungeon." I forget exactly how they. I think they cast not Revivify, but Resurrection or Greater Restoration or something along those lines, and return. This was Bahamut, and they returned him to his physical body, but after being locked in a dungeon with a shadow dragon for 1,000 years, he was very tired. So he allowed them to continue on into the dungeon and fight the shadow dragon, which was a fun fight. It ended up being really cool. One of my players, Dave, who you also met, was a paladin and cast Daylight, and just basically followed the shadow. His entire job, the entire fight, was to follow the shadow dragon around with the Daylight spell on his staff, so that the dragon wouldn't get the advantage of being in darkness. It was a great fight. One of my players was playing Alicia, who you haven't met yet. She was playing Tabaxi Monk. So she's also just chasing this dragon, but also being able to attack once she gets to the dragon, because Tabaxi Monk. It was a great fight. It was a lot of fun. It ended up going really well. Again, starting at level 20 as a brand new DM, I learned a lot. Trying to keep track of very powerful monsters, legendary resistances, legendary actions, constantly forgetting those. It was fun. It was a great time, and I don't regret it. But it was definitely something different. So they were able to do that. Then Bahamut reached out to them a little bit later on, once he recovered a bit, and asked them to seek out Paylor, who was now in the heart of the forest. And they adventured through this forest. They ran into a forest cleric, way of nature, or whatever it is, the cleric domain, the nature domain cleric, in this forest, and he went with them. I believe that was when Jared entered the group, and that's who he was playing. They ran into some fairy dragons. I love fairy dragons because they're just mischief seekers. So they didn't even really encounter so they encountered the fairy dragons, but the fairy dragons just cast hallucinatory terrain on, I guess they were walking, and it's just this giant chasm. So this group of fairy dragons worked together to create a giant chasm that they were working really hard to figure out how to get over, until one of them fell and landed and basically was hovering over the chasm, which was a pretty fantastic way to find out it's hallucinatory terrain. And that's when they discovered the pseudo dragon. I always say pseudo dragons instead of fairy dragons. That's when they discovered the fairy dragons, and Jared cast, I think it was Wall of Fire, but cast it in the trees. And poor fairy dragons, they're not high level creatures. They all died. It was so sad. Whatever didn't die ended up flying off, and the hallucinatory terrain was gone. But that hurt my heart a little bit. Not his fault. He was just trying to accomplish the goal, and he did. Got them to go away. But at this time too, Sarah's character, the lawful evil red tiefling warlock, She was a warlock. Her patron was Asmodeus, and or Asmodeus, whichever you prefer. Um, and every combat, I was having her roll a wisdom saving throw, and every time she failed and warlocks don't need wisdom, so she was failing them pretty easily. And every time she failed, she would get whispers in her ears, and it would cause the next time to be more difficult to fail. Until they got into the final fight with there were treants and there were I had will-o-wisps, and there was just a bunch of creatures trying to protect the heart of the forest. But they needed to destroy the heart. Destroying the heart of the forest didn't kill the forest. It just prevented it from basically taking over the entire world at some point. So they revived Pelor, and they were fighting all these creatures that were trying to protect the heart of the forest. And during that combat, I think it was 2 rounds into that combat, Sarah failed enough wisdom checks that a portal opened up, and the last one was, you have an ultimatum: you come through this portal or you die. And she did, and it was a portal that Asmodeus opened up into hell, and she went through and came face to face with Asmodeus, while the rest of the team finished off whatever was happening in the forest. Again, brought Pelor back to life. Pelor and Bahamut. There's actually, in this forest, there's actually a river that runs through the center of the forest, and in the current game, it's called the Tears of the Gods. But this river, Bahamut shed a single tear when he was reunited with Pelor, and it fell to the ground, and that's where the start of the river is. That spring came forth and started a river through these woods, and so this river is literally the tears of Bahamut, which is really, I think, is really cool. So cut to Sarah. She goes through the portal, is now with Asmodeus, and basically Asmodeus is like, you're my champion now. Like, you've proven yourself to be very powerful. You've basically been walking with my enemies, Bahamut and Pelor. You're my enemy. You're my champion now. So Sarah became Reverence. Sarah's character became the champion of Asmodeus, which is still canon to this day. So that's 2 one-shots down. So all this happened. This is just 2 one-shots that happened. This is all the world building I'm doing for these one-shots. So Pelor and Bahamut are both revived. They're beginning to realize that the material plane isn't the only plane of existence. They have discovered other planes, and they are starting to explore them. Bahamut's spending some time at Mount Celestia. Pelor, I forget which plane he's in. He might also be Mount Celestia, but they're both spending time in these outer planes, effectively trying to claim them, and realizing that their power grows the longer they spend in those outer planes. So they are trying to spend as much time in those planes as possible. So Bahamut comes to the players yet again, less Sarah, because her character is now the champion of Asmodeus, and is like, I need you to go find one more of our friend. Her name is Ioun. I can tell you exactly where she is. And they went to go explore. And at this time, it was a city called Flibavec, and it was a city built out of a mountain, which at the time the mountain was completely enclosed. We'll get back to Flibavec eventually. So the mountain was completely. The city was built into the mountain, so the mountain was hollow, but the rest of the mountain was still in one piece. And the dwarves had mined so far down, they had discovered the portal to hell, and the players adventured down and got to the portal of hell, where Ioun was. At that time, Reverence had Ioun and was basically tasked with finishing the job, killing Ioun, which Sarah did promptly. But then I think it was Ruth's character, the Mystic. Her name was River. Brought Ioun back to life, and they fought Reverence and ended up sending her back to hell. Then fast forward a little bit, they save Ioun. Ioun is unfortunately a little weakened again. She was just killed and brought back to life. But now Bahamut needs help taking Mount Celestia. And I don't remember why, but at this point, Asmodeus had sent Reverence to help, and I can't for the life of me remember why Reverence was there helping. If Sarah's in the chat, she can let us know what was going on. I don't know that she is, but I know there was a very distinct reason that Asmodeus had sent Reverence to help take Mount Celestia. I think it was because it was probably something along the lines of he wanted to graciously give his brothers and sisters the outer planes so he could, again, try to focus on the material plane and try to take control of that. Whatever the case was, Reverence was there, and they went to Mount Celestia. Again, they found, they fought through a few angels who were protecting it, and then there was a group of fallen Aasimar on the top of Mount Celestia who they had to take out to claim Mount Celestia effectively. And they, the one of them, I forget, I built level 20, effectively level 20 characters for this encounter because I wanted something really challenging for them. So there was just a group of level 20 Aasimars that I had built for this encounter, and one of them cast Mass Suggestion, and a couple of them failed. Basically, the suggestion was just walk away. And so several of the players turned around and walked away while the rest of them stayed to fight. And of course, there was meteor swarms going on. One of them not terraforms. That's the wrong word. Polymorphed into a Tarrasque. True polymorphed into a Tarrasque. It was an amazing fight. And Sarah had a side quest of basically sending any potential allies to Asmodeus using a scroll of plane shift. So she had several scrolls of plane shift, basically Pokemon style. She would read them and capture them, and they would go to Asmodeus. So when Tarrasque was on the battlefield, she used the scroll of plane shift and waited for all the legendary resistances to go away, and then used the scroll of plane shift and sent it to the 9 hells for Asmodeus. So Asmodeus was just sitting there chilling, and a Tarrasque just pops up in his basement, which he was super happy about. Eventually, it turned back into an Aasimar, but it was great. And they claimed Mount Celestia. Now, while all that is happening on the material plane, Bahamut's tomb is no longer under protection. When Bahamut was released, the arcane shield was removed. And so now the chromatic and the metallic dragons are just at full-on war on material plane, and they are just ripping it asunder. And Bahamut realizes that if they continue this war, that the material plane is basically is gone. They can't. It cannot sustain the Draconic War. So Bahamut decided that the best course of action was to take all the dragons and lock them onto a pocket dimension that was dubbed the Eternal Battleground. And that way they could have their eternal war, but not sacrificed the material plane in their wake. Uh, so that's where the one shots ended. Actually, they right before that happened, I never got a chance to run. I haven't had a chance yet to run that. There'd be a battle where Tiamat actually was. Oh, that's what it was actually. That's what it was. Tiamat, because I always forget about Tiamat. Tiamat was actively trying to take over the Nine Hells. Had set up a palace in the Nine Hells, and Asmodeus was upset. He did not want Tiamat to have the power in the Nine Hells, so he sent Reverence to make sure that that Bahamut would go through with his promise to eliminate all the dragons off the material plane, thereby removing a lot of Tiamat's sway on the material plane. That's what it was. I'm so glad I remembered. So there would be this huge fight with a bunch of ancient dragons. There's going to be one of each ancient dragon for them to fight in this huge fight while Bahamut was trying to use these 6 stones as keys to lock the dragons in the material plane at the peak of Mount Celestia. Lock the dragons into the eternal battlegrounds at the peak of Mount Celestia. And that would have been the end of the one-shots at the time. Like I said, never got around to running that final one-shot. But then, fast forward 500 years. Haven't seen a dragon on the material plane in 500 years. The gods have now, they're not trapped or locked into the outer planes, but most of them just spend their days there. Pelor, the Dawnfather, all of them mostly just spend their time in the outer planes. Tiamat and Bahamut, though, are both still active on the material plane. Tiamat trying to gather the stones that Bahamut had used to lock all the dragons away, and Bahamut trying to keep tabs on Tiamat and thwarting her at every turn. So you fast forward 500 years, that's where the first campaign that I run took place. They were, one of Ruth's character was a keeper of one of the stones, and the character that she was pretending to be was a keeper of one of the stones. She was playing a tiefling who was pretending to be that person because she had been killed and the stone taken. So she was playing a changeling who was effectively pretending to be this person and hunting down the people that killed her friend, the keeper of the stones. And that's where they met up with a bunch of people. My sister was playing a Kalistar. I like to, when world building and when building a campaign for my players to jump into, I like to try to world build around their ideas and not limit them to what I've already written. So my sister wanted to play Kalistar, and I'm like, and this is an Eberron creature, and that unlocks a whole lot of other. Ruth was playing a Changeling, which might also be Eberron. Dave was playing a Warforged, also Eberron. So what I ended up writing in was that my sister Danielle was the first Kalistar on the material plane, and the Quarry were at war on Dalcor with the Bad Quarry. And they were fighting for power on Dalcor. A lot of people on the material plane were beginning to have nightmares as the Bad Quarry were slowly starting to take over. But Danielle's character would be a beacon for the rest of the Quarry as they wanted to flee to the material plane. Let's see what else. Sarah and Dave were both playing. They were playing tiefling siblings. However, Dave was off doing a blacksmithing apprenticeship, effectively, with a blacksmith in Flivavec, which is that dwarven city. And they were actually building the first Warforged. So somebody came in to steal the plans for the Warforged, ended up killing Dave's character, uh, and uh, Sarah's character was was heading there just to check in on her brother and visit from their hometown. And she showed up just as he was dying, and Reverence was actually there, and and um, Sarah just called out and was like, "Somebody help! My brother's dying." And Reverence was like, "I can help for a deal." So Sarah became uh, a warlock of Reverence. Her patron is Reverence. Crazy that she's her own patron, effectively. And she saved Dave's soul, but it ended up going into the Warforged body. So Dave is now this tiefling that is locked inside of a Warforged body. Jared was playing a centaur who was basically tasked to also keep the keeper of the stone safe, who failed whenever the keeper was killed, and was also traveling with Ruth's character to try to find out who had killed them. And then Danielle and Alicia were together. Alicia was basically part of Danielle's, I don't want to say coven. They were a small group of hermits that lived in the swamp together. Not hermits either, whatever you would call them. And they were traveling together. They were good friends. So Bahamut is on the material plane. Tiamat's on the material plane. Tiamat is actively trying to gain power and cause war on the material plane. She was working in so many different places. She was the matron of the Platinum Cliffs, which was a city. It was a resort city, effectively, that was built on top of Bahamut's tomb. So Bahamut's tomb is buried underneath this city that Tiamat is now the matron of. She was also in the desert, controlling a group of gnomes who were building her a Warforged army to help take portions of the land that she was in and basically find all the stones that she was missing. And she was also on the council in the capital city, Urbe Diorum, and was influencing things there as well. So Bahamut is keeping tabs on Tiamat and is Bahamut's theory is that if he starts an all-out war with Tiamat, then he's just right back at square one where the material plane is at risk. He doesn't want to start a war where these super powerful beings, all the deities that are now establishing themselves in this world, are fighting on the material plane and wreaking havoc everywhere. So he's quietly scoping things out, influencing the players. They actually met Bahamut a couple of times, and he was giving them clues on where to go and how to avoid Tiamat. So they started off. They ended up finding a stone in the beginning city. They recognized Ruth's character recognized it and took it. They went to the Platinum Cliffs and quickly found out that Tiamat was actually the one in charge there. And I think we told that story where a couple of them went to go meet with her under the guise of being basically Ruth's entourage. But Tiamat saw through it, sent guards after them. Meanwhile, Jared's character saw a canary in the woods and decided to shoot an arrow at it, and revealing that it was a polymorphed ancient gold dragon that was keeping an eye on them for Bahamut, who then scared off the people that were chasing down the second group that were coming in behind them. So lots of things happened. I'm trying to remember everything that happened. Oh, so the next big story event was they were on their way to Hell to meet with Asmodeus. Sarah's character, not Wish, not Solely. Might have been Solely. I don't think it was Solely. I can't remember her. She has so many characters, all tieflings. Uh, was basically having dreams of like, hey, bring her to me, and she believed it was actually Ruth's character that Asmodeus was after. So she was like, "Hey guys, I might have a hint down in underneath Flivivec where we might need to go," which she knew there was a portal to Hell at. Um, Meanwhile, Ruth's character and Danielle's character both also were aware of basically. So Ruth's character was given dreams by Bahamut where all the stones were located, but like very vague descriptions. Like she would be able to she would float above and see lights in space, and basically be able to pinpoint where they were on a map. And then Danielle's character, again, she was playing the first Kalistar, and the Quarry were trying to get to the material plane. So she was also having dreams about where all these stones were, because if the walls between the material plane and the eternal battlegrounds were broken, it would actually weaken the walls between all the other planes, and the Quarry could then mass flee Dalcor and come into the material plane. So they were also after these stones. So they were on their way to Hell. Sarah trying to lead them to Hell. Ruth and Danielle's character both actively aware that what they should be looking for is deep beneath Flivivec. So Flivivec at this time is now just it's like a skeleton of a mountain. So all that's left of the mountain proper is the city. So whatever buildings and roadways they had carved from the mountain that used to be encased in the shell of the mountain are now just present. So it's like the skeleton of a city that is in the shape of a mountain. That is still an active dwarven city. They traveled deep beneath Flivivec, went through the Underdark, found a Duergar city, traveled beneath the city into where they went to, found and eventually found the portal to the Nine Hells. I'm kind of breezing past that because the current game that we are playing are kind of in the same spot, and I don't want to give away too much. I'm not giving away too many spoilers. So they traveled to the Hells, and that's actually where we left off. That's when I had to stop DMing, and Jared took over DMing, and we played Curse of Strahd. But I had so much more planned. One thing that was an issue. So Asmodeus had one of the stones, and he was willing to give it to the party as long as several things were met. So one of those things was that he actually wasn't interested in Ruth's character at all. He was interested in Danielle's character, and the reason is all the people that lived in the swamps with Danielle and Alicia's character were under contract with Asmodeus for some reason or another. It was going to be revealed that Alicia's parents had made a contract with Asmodeus for Alicia. Effectively, they weren't able to give birth, so they made a contract with Asmodeus, and Asmodeus allowed them to give birth to Alicia's character. But they were all under contract with Asmodeus in some form or another. And Asmodeus was interested in the Dalcor coming into the material plane because all the people that were there were prepared to receive, because the Dalcor can't live in the material plane proper. It's kind of like if you've ever seen Stargate SG-1, the Goa'uld, who are symbiotes that live in the brainstem of of real people. That's kind of similar to the Quarry. When the Quarry come to the material plane, they're more symbiote style creatures that infect the brains of creatures that live on the material plane, and they get telekinetic abilities. They're able to like jump into dreams, but but they need hosts. They can't live on the material plane, so they need hosts. So Asmodeus had, he saw all this stuff falling into place, so he made contracts with all these people to be in the right spot at the right time to receive all the Chori, who would then be basically under his control. So that's what Asmodeus was interested in, and basically he was willing to give them the stone as long as Danielle's character was like, sure, I'll do this. It saves my people. And if there was a fight, that's when it would be revealed. I had it all planned. Be like, well, then they're just escaping one tyrant to another tyrant, and Asmodeus would be like, it's only for one generation. Alicia's character, I have no control over her, and her parents have a contract with me, and that's how that would be revealed. And then I told Sarah about it, and she was like, oh yeah, we would absolutely have fought to figure out how to free Alicia's parents from Asmodeus's contract. And if they accepted, basically Asmodeus would tell them where to find Bahamut's greatsword, which is, they needed it because the Platinum Cliffs, even though the Platinum Cliffs were built on top of Bahamut's Grave was still inaccessible, protected by divine magic, except if they use Bahamut's greatsword as a key to get into Bahamut's grave. So the blade itself, at some point, Reverence and River, Ruth and Sarah's character, Reverence came to River and was like, from the one-shots, this is back from the one-shots, sometime between the one-shots, the events of the one-shots in this world, Reverence was tasked with fighting, because there's, the Nine Hells and the Abyss are always at a constant war, and Reverence was tasked with effectively fighting off some of the demons from the Abyss, and went and recruited River so that they could fight together. River still wielding Bahamut's greatsword, and they were fighting Baphomet, not Bahamut, Baphomet, and the killing blow, the Bahamut's greatsword broke off into Baphomet's chest, and Baphomet fell into a chasm in the eternal labyrinth in the Abyss. And then they were being bombarded by demons, but they accomplished the task that they had sought out to, so they teleported out using a scroll of plane shift or something along those lines, and escaped the Abyss. But that just means that all that was left was the hilt of Bahamut's greatsword. So they had the hilt. They knew where the blade was, but they needed both pieces to access Bahamut's tomb. So basically, Asmodeus was going to be like, I know where the greatsword is, and I'll give you directions to it so that you can get it and beat Tiamat into Bahamut's grave. Because, of course, Tiamat would find a way into the grave anyway, but the quickest way would have been with Bahamut's greatsword. So the next task that they were going to have would be to go to the Nine Hells. And I was actually building, not the Nine Hells, the Abyss. I was actually building a roll chart for the Eternal Labyrinth in the Abyss, where there was 100 encounters, none of which were finding Baphomet's resting place. And every day you would roll 3 encounters on this chart, and you would replace the encounter. You would roll again to replace the encounter once it's happened. And anyway, it was going to be this long adventure through the Eternal Labyrinth, where they would eventually find Baphomet and retrieve the blade of the greatsword, and go be able to get to Bahamut's grave. Meanwhile, Tiamat's on the material plane, realizing that she's in a race against the clock. So the party had two of the stones that were hidden beneath the Elven city that Ruth's character was from. And Tiamat wasn't about that life, and she wasn't about to try to infiltrate it. She's already got lots of things on the plate. So what she was going to do was get some mages, some very powerful mages, to levitate the city up into the air, a la Avengers Age of Ultron, go into the catacombs beneath the city and then just drop the city. So Ruth was going to, the party was going to come out of the abyss to Ruth's character getting several messages from the like the sending cantrip saying, just basically saying, help us. And they would run to the city to see this, and then have to fight or try to figure out how to save a lot of people in the city. But eventually, the city would have fallen, and in the new campaign, there's a space called the Chasm, and that's all it is. It's called the Chasm. There's still a civilization of elves that live in there. They used to be high elves. They are now just wood elves. But the Chasm is where the city used to be, and Tiamat had dropped the city into this space, and it created basically an impact crater. So then, eventually, the party would finally collect all the stones, or Tiamat would, depending on how things went. But either way, the dragons would be released from their eternal battlegrounds back into the material plane, and then there would be a whole new set of dangers. Whether Tiamat was able to first or the party would depend on whether the metallic dragons came back first or the chromatic ones came back first. So they could sway it in their favor, depending on who has it. But then again, the war would just wreak havoc on the material plane. Fortunately, the people of the material plane are now powerful enough to handle it themselves, which is what Bahamut wanted in the first place. So then fast forward another 500 years, and that's where the current campaign is taking place. The war between the metallic and the chromatic dragons has basically wreaked havoc on this continent that all these stories have been taking place on. But the war is now quiet, and a group of natives to this land are now calling in adventurers to basically reclaim the land and claim it for their own. And that's where the current campaign takes place. Lots of shenanigans have happened. I tried running it as a West Marches style campaign where there was one city and the players would get cues as to where to go, like nearby, so they could go out, deal with a dungeon, deal with an enemy, whatever it is, then come back to the city, regroup, get more clues, find another thing that they wanted to take care of, create another group, go out, take care of that, come back to the city. But the players decided that they wanted to run a sandbox campaign instead, so they've just been following as many threads as they can without ever going back to the city, which is fine. It works out because, again, the land is flooded with adventurers anyway. So it works out. Like, if people hop in, I can just say, oh, you were out adventuring, trying to find your wealth and fame when you run across the party. So it ends up working out. But it's a lot of fun. We have a group of 15 to 20 regular players that play every Wednesday. We do have several that come and go. Others that come in one time, and I haven't seen them since, or maybe twice or three times. But most weeks we have about 12 to 15 people between two tables. And they are currently heading, again, they're beneath Flivavec, they're in the Underdark. They are currently headed to the Hells to discuss with Asmodeus the plans for, again, they're collecting the egg, they know them as eggs because they're like egg-shaped stones. So they are collecting these stones, again, because there's other nefarious people currently working in the background, also trying to collect these to gain their power in whatever way that the players have not found out yet. And so they're running around also trying to collect them. They decide they want to go chat with Asmodeus to discuss how to proceed. And it's a lot of fun. Every Wednesday, if you're interested, we start around 6 p.m. Sometimes we start a little closer to 6:30, depending on if we have new players that need to build character sheets or if we're waiting on a couple people. And if you're interested, you're more than welcome to join. I think that's about it for the history of this world. I'm sure there's a lot more I could discuss, but that's about it. That's all the important stuff. And again, there's a few things that I didn't discuss because that would actually be spoilers for the current campaign. And I don't want to put those out into the world yet. I like keeping a few things a little closer to the chest. If you're interested in any other events, we do have trivia night every Tuesday, starting at 7 p.m. Our friends Kevin and Victoria do a great job of hosting trivia here. You can follow them on Facebook at KMB Trivia. They this week, let me pull up the categories, but next week, the 27th, is actually Disney Trivia. So if you want to brush off your Disney knowledge, you can join us next Tuesday, the 27th, for Disney-themed trivia. This week's categories, however, are cameos, general knowledge, question marks, and before and after. Join us to figure out exactly what those categories mean. If you wear funky socks, you get a mulligan. Mulligans give you one free answer throughout the night. So you can use that on any category at any time. Wednesday night or Tuesday nights, we also have a group of Melee players come in and play Melee every other Tuesday usually, but they'll be here 3 weeks in a row, which I think this Tuesday is the last of that stretch of 3. You can find more information about them on Facebook as well. I don't have their unfortunately, in front of me. I need to get that and actually let you guys know what that is. They'll be here this Tuesday as well. Wednesday is D&D night, and if you don't want to join the house game, I know Rich plays. Rich, you're still in Vecna. You're still in Vecna right now. Do you have much open spaces at your table on any given week? Okay, occasionally he has a spot or two available, and he's always welcoming new players as well. Lots of great people that play. There's actually a group of people that come in, and they have kids at their table, so a bunch of like under 15-year-old kids that come in and play. They're really cool. Thursdays, there's a group that come in and do Commander Night, Magic the Gathering. Open tables there, so if you're interested in getting with some Magic the Gathering players and want to find some people to play against, Thursday nights here at Dirty 20 Bar, there's a group here. The first and fourth Thursdays is also a board game meetup group. You can find their information somewhere on our Facebook. Once we throw that information out, we always link their meetup group as well. So make sure you check on that. I believe this is the fourth Thursday, so we should be seeing that coming up this week. I'll make sure I don't have that wrong. But yeah, if you check our socials, it should be coming up this week. Fridays is the Fighting Game Club, FGC. Fighting Game Club. Again, they come in, they bring in their own consoles and arcade pads, and they play Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, etc. And they have a great time. They're a great group of people as well. And am I missing anything else? Oh, we do have new daily specials that just released Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have $5 well shots and beer. So if you wanted a mixed drink, you can grab a $5 well shot mixed drink, or any of our beers. Tap and cans and bottles are all $5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays we have half off appetizers. Fridays is 20% off mac and cheese. Saturday is half off desserts, and Sunday is kids 10 and under eat free. One free kids meal for kids 10 and under, no other purchase required. And then also starting the 27th, we will be open for lunch. So come in, check us out. We're going to release a line of sandwiches that are quick and easy to make, so that if you're looking for a quick bite on your lunch break or in the middle of the day, maybe you're heading into the city to go to the zoo or the science center, because summer's here and that's when we do a lot of activities. You can come check us out starting at 11 o'clock Tuesday through Friday. We'll have a meatball marinara sub, 3-meat Italian sub. We are doing a shrimp po' boy and a what's the last one? Hot ham and cheese. Again, find out more information about that on social media starting this week. Besides that, we're always here for anybody. If you're nerdy and want a great place to hang out with other nerds, or if you're looking for a place for your D&D campaign while having access to quality food and drinks, That's what we're here for. If you're not into any of that stuff, but you're just looking for a chill bar atmosphere, we're that as well. You can come in, just grab a bite to eat and a drink. You don't have to play games. You don't have to like D&D. You don't have to enjoy anything that goes on here. If you just want good food and drinks, we're here for that as well. Again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jason, and I'll see you next week. Hi, I'm still here. No.